Hello, you're welcome. It gives me great joy you're viewing this video today. I'm Dr. Olayinka Akanle. I'm a sociologist. I'm a researcher. I'm a life coach. I'm a public speaker. On this channel, I do a number of stuff, but all these stuff I do, they are to make my viewers, my subscribers, the best they can be. Meanwhile, if you have not subscribed to this channel previously, kindly subscribe to the channel. Kindly tap your notification button so that you are alerted every time I drop new content. Kindly comment, like, and share, and tell others about this channel. If you have subscribed previously to this channel, thank you very much for staying tuned. This morning, I want to address another very important issue in the context of research. How to write excellent introduction. If you have conducted a research, maybe your undergraduate project, dissertation, or thesis, or you want to write articles for publication, or you want to write chapters for publication, or even books, or even technical reports, it's very important that you write up an introduction. Is very important. Meanwhile, I did a video which you can also find on this channel on how to write background of study. So you need to watch that video in sync with it so you have full view of the issues. Because in some institutions or even in some organizations, they usually collapse the background of study with introduction. Even in some articles, in some journals, some publishers also expect that your background of study will be together with your introduction. And like I did mention in the video on background of study, that even when you collapse, that is, if you merge your introduction with your background, they still have their basic elements that are unique that you have to accommodate and account for in that section. So even if you have your introduction and background merged, or your background and introduction of study merged, you still have to separate them in terms of content. You may have to write basic things of the background and basic things of introduction. So the two of them come together. So they have different components, some areas of emphasis. So if you take the video on background, you watch it, and also you watch this on introduction, it gives you a good feel. And in some context, they actually separate the background of study from introduction, which means you still have to understand what the two of them, what they stand for, and their unique differences. So you have to write your background of study separately and your introduction separately. So it depends on your school, your institution, and your purpose. So today, in this video, I'll be addressing introduction. How can you write excellent introduction? You have to know that introduction is usually the first part, among the first parts of your article, or your chapter, or your book, or your thesis, or your dissertation, or project, or report. So you have to be very deliberate in preparing your introduction, because when you want to excite your readers, you want to encourage them, you want to draw their interest and attention so that they are able to read your work. I've read many thesis, dissertation, project, or even I've reviewed many articles or books for publishers as a peer reviewer, anonymous peer reviewer, and sometimes from introduction, you are discouraged from reading because the introduction is so boring, uninformative, and you just struggle to read through, since you have to read through before you make a judgment. So I usually encourage people to be deliberate and be very exciting at the level of introduction, because the impression people form at the level of your introduction, reading your introduction, will determine their attitude in reading and what their ultimate judgment of your work. So you have to be very deliberate, let it be very interesting and exciting, and because it's the first impression you want to give. So you have to be, so in your introduction, this is where you establish your context, that is your context, the situation, the environment, the intellectual domain, the social domain, the cultural domain, the technological domain, the social domain of that work. So you paint the context of the work, and you have to demonstrate the importance of the work. Why is the work, the research, important ultimately? Why should we be interested in reading this? So you also have to show the motivation. What's the motivation? What led to this work? What are the motivations of this work? And in explaining stylistically the motivation of the work, you then must motivate your readers to want to continue to read. So you have to let your readers know the motivation behind the work, what motivated the work, what got you very interested. Then your introduction must consider the broader theme of the research. Usually we say you adopt the funnel approach in writing. In this way, you tell us what essentially we can categorize as the global background. I mean, the global issue, the broader theme. For example, if you're working on climate change, for example, you want to understand the sociocultural, for example, of climate change, or understanding of climate change within a culturally specific domain. It would not be a bad idea to tell us the global debate, the global problem occasioned by climate change. Then you tell us the global, the continental, the national, before you come to your specific research. This is what we call the funnel shape approach to writing. So that means you are reaching a global audience, and everybody, it doesn't matter where they are going to be very interested in your work, because they've been able to situate the work, generally speaking, within a global environment. So you can't just zero in on your research right from the introduction. You have to let people know what's the global relevance of this work, because it doesn't matter how unique your work is. People must be able to put this work within a global template to see, wow, this is a very fantastic work, because your work must communicate with a broader audience, with a global audience. So you have to be very deliberate in terms of establishing the broader theme of the work you are doing. And you must give us an insight in your introduction, the insight into the impact your research will make. Don't forget, every research is to contribute to knowledge, at the same time solve a particular problem. Even though you want to say, okay, in terms of the epistemology guiding your work, you also want to show the relevance, the impact it will make, both on scholarship, on the discipline, and even at the social level, technological level, economic level, relational level, policy level. You want to show this impact, depending on what your work is all about. So you must show. So that's what will give us the effect, the wow effect. And so, wow, this is the kind of work we've been looking for, and people will be interested in reading. The work can become a bestseller. So, and if it's an academic work, a lot of publishers will be running after you to publish the work. I've been opportune to publish some works that I very fast they have turned it around and they have published it. Because the work, as at that time, was addressing very fantastic subject, and even till now, the works are still being cited, still being used seriously. So you must but meanwhile, you must be aware that it may be impossible for you to write excellent introduction if you have not done excellent literature review. Literature review is very important, because this is where you will understand where work is at this point in time. And it will tell you the gaps. It will tell you, you will be able to come about quotations, citations, works that have been done in this area, and you will be able to get data. It's from literature review you get data to support and justify your work. Meanwhile, there's another video on this channel you need to watch on literature review, how to do literature review. You may also look for the other one. There's another video on justification in research. All of this, what you want to do, even in your introduction, is to also use data, citations, publications to strengthen your argument. Don't forget, in your introduction, you're also stylistically arguing a case for your work. And you must be very convincing and persuasive. And you need quotations from established authors, quotations from organizations that work in this area, data from organizations that work in this area, to justify, to show us the magnitude, the danger of not addressing this issue in research. You have to to systematically do this. And you don't assume your readers know anything. Therefore, so you won't take anything for granted. So try as much as possible to assume ignorant audience, so that this will propel you to give as much information as possible in a very smart and concise manner. I've seen introduction, when people write introduction of thesis, dissertation, project, report, running into 15 pages, 11 pages. I believe this is too much because it becomes very unwieldy, too lengthy. So what you need to do is to make sure that your introduction is smart and as concise as possible, yet detailed and informative. It must be detailed and informative, yet not be unnecessarily lengthy or verbose. Brevity sometimes is mastery. Though it depends on your supervisor or the style guide you are following. But I believe usually if you have introduction, between 2 pages and 5 pages should be fine. So I've read many theses, I've had to comment about this and say, if you write 15 pages, 20 pages, 11 pages of introduction, you will lose, we will not likely understand what we are talking about eventually because it's too lengthy. Those supervisors may insist, well, 11 pages, 20 pages, but I think that is actually unnecessarily too lengthy, and we will not be able to see in a very sharp manner what issue you want to address. So I usually suggest, I'm not prescribing length or number of pages, but if I write articles for publication in journals, or I don't do more than 1.5 pages of 1.5 line spacing, Times New Roman 12. So by 1.5 pages, I should be able to or 2 pages maximum, marshal my point as sharply as possible with all these components I've been mentioning. When you master a particular area, you don't waste words. So be sharp, be smart, detailed, comprehensive, informative in your introduction, and give as much information. Justify using data, citations, and literature to justify yourself. So while you look at the broader scenario of the work, be unique. What is unique about your own work eventually? That's what we'll talk about. Funnel shape approach. Funnel shape approach comes this way. You start from the global, continental, to the uniqueness of your own work. Don't forget to be very unique. Tell us what is unique. It's not about legions. I was in a PhD seminar the other day, and we saw one individual with introductions running into about 10 pages with so many citations. Then we start wondering, is this a literature review section or introduction section? So you don't cite too much in the work that we can't even see your own voice anymore. So you don't need to cite. It's not in the length, in the numbers of citations, but the quality of the citation, recency and relevance. So be clear to show your own voice, your own uniqueness, unique aspect of your work, which is very important. So you can show us how your own work will make contributions. What contributions do you want to make to study? And from your introduction, we should see your contribution, your intended contributions, the direction you want to travel to make contributions. And this will come from your uniqueness of your work and unique selling point. Then from your introduction, we should have an insight into your objectives and your research questions. If it's a thesis or dissertation or research work, we assume that you will still have a section to list your objectives and your research questions. But you must give us an insight, because research is iterative. It's a process. We must be able to have an insight into research questions you want to answer, your objectives you want to engage. So while you may not list your objectives in your introduction, we should see a flow. Research is a process, fractal process, one leading to the other. So we should not get to your objectives or research questions and answer sections and say, where are these ones coming from? Because we couldn't see any link with the introduction. We couldn't glean an insight from the introduction or what your research question is. So we must have an insight into the research question we want to answer. Even though you might decide not to state the objectives or introduction and the research question in your introduction, but you must stylistically let us know that these are the issues you want to address. And if you need to state them in an embedded format in the introduction before you now itemize them in the objectives and question section, that's not a problem. But we must have an insight. There must be an handshake, you know, between your introduction and your objectives and question section. You want to give us an insight. Then the work must give us an overview of your introduction, must give us an overview of the entire project. If it is a dissertation or thesis or project or even operational research report, we must, from your introduction, you must tell us what section will follow, what other sections will follow, and what are the sections or chapters that will follow after the introduction. So the introduction should tell us what you want to do and the logical sequence, the logical flow of other sections. What other things should we be looking out for? What sections are we supposed to be looking out for after the introduction? What would the title of the sections be? Or the topic of the section? So other sections, what would they be? Other chapters. Which other chapters should we begin to follow? For example, if it's a thesis, dissertation, or project, after the background, the introduction, we should be expecting that probably we're going to see your research questions. We should be able to see, after that, we should be able to see your objectives. If we want to use a hypothesis, you should tell us there will be a hypothesis. Then after that, maybe your chapter 2 will be maybe to your review and theoretical framework. You should tell us there will be methodology, there will be findings and discussion section, there will be another chapter on summary, conclusion, and recommendations, and contribution to knowledge. And if it's an article, you should tell us also, after this introduction, there will be this section, this section, this section. So we are on the lookout, essentially speaking. I'm indeed enjoying myself the way I'm giving this talk. And I do sincerely wish you well, and I'm sure you've enjoyed yourself too. Kindly subscribe to the channel. If you haven't, tell others, comment, like, and share. Until I see you in my next video, be your best.